Hey there, welcome back to the Overflow podcast. I'm Bronwyn, your host today, as along with my co-hosts Becky Webb and Andrea Lehman. And today we're talking about cleansing. So, cleansing is actually a really broad topic. We had a little pre-podcast discussion about what we should even cover because, excuse me, we really can't cover it all. But we want to give an introduction to the idea of cleansing. And if you get into the natural world, it won't take long before you hear the idea of like, oh, you should do a cleanse. And you might have seen that online. And we want to give a little bit of an overview so you kind of see the landscape of what's available, and also give you some real cautions about like who should cleanse, who should not cleanse. And then there's a rhythm to cleansing. There's different kinds of cleanses you could do. Um, and I actually want to start this off by saying that you're worth it. Like all the things you do to support your health, that you as a person are worth feeling good. And so the three of us have chosen to do cleanses at different times to upgrade how we feel. And not for, sometimes they're a restrictive diet for a short time. It's not the restriction we're looking for, it's the feeling great and having more energy afterward. Or sometimes even in the midst of the cleanse itself. So anyway, I want to tell you sometimes these special efforts are worth it. I think this podcast is probably going to launch in March. Is that right, Becky? That we're
Yeah, we'll be like
Yeah.
the first week in March or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like
So,
spring
yeah,
cleansing
spring
time.
cleaning. Yeah,
Yeah.
spring cleaning, which is a good topic. But sometimes we get to spring and our New Year's resolutions kind of went by the wayside. And I want to just tell you that that's okay. That's actually kind of the rhythm of life, is that we do things with a focus for a while and then we kind of pull back. But if you feel like you're kind of like falling off the bandwagon, with diet or something specific, having a little short cleanse is sometimes a great way to get you just feeling fresh and new and ready to go for it again. So, okay, well, Andre, I want you to start us off. Would you please and tell us kind of like why we would even do cleansing? Like, what does that mean, and why would we do it?
Yeah, and I like what you said about a cleanse kind of being a launching off point. And so, yeah, it can be really overwhelming when we look at the cleansing world because there are so many different kinds of cleanses and so many different ways to do them. And even with like one specific cleanse, like 5,000 different things you could do to cleanse or different products you can use to cleanse. So I want to kind of focus more specifically on just colon cleansing and why I really feel like almost anybody should look at colon cleansing, but specifically people who have or are currently eating a SAD diet, standard American diet, right, with lots of like white flour and processed foods. And I would talk specifically to the person who is not pooping daily. Like, I can remember sitting in the lunchroom when I was a teacher. There was a group of like five or six of us girls in the room. And, like, why wouldn't we be talking about pooping while we were eating lunch? I don't know. But anyway, the conversation came up that I think everybody in the room, except for me, was not pooping, but every like 3 or 4 days. And I'm telling you, like, this was like five other ladies who were like, yeah, I go every few days. And my doctor said it was normal. And I was like, okay, what is common is not normal. It may be
Yes.
very common, and that may be exactly what the doctors are seeing on a daily basis is that people are only going every 3 or 4 days, but that is not normal. I'll tell you, I have that issue when I go on vacation. I don't know if any of you experience that, like the whole vacation, like all of a sudden the digestive system is like, what's going on? I'm not going to work right now. But in daily life, like we should be going at least daily.
If
And
not more than once a day, sometimes.
ideally, yes,
Yeah.
2 or 3 times a day.
Mhm.
So, you think about like food in, food out, right? Food in, food out. So, when we're not moving our bowels daily, think about what's happening there, right? Like that food is in our intestinal tract and it's fermenting, right? Toxins are being reabsorbed into our bodies and we're feeling off. We're feeling cruddy. Um, There's a really good book. It's by Dr. Leanne Deirdorf, and she goes through like all of the different cleanses that you can do. And she was a chiropractor. And so she said in her office, when women would come in and they were having fertility issues, that she would immediately put them on a colon cleanse. And I don't quote me on exactly what she said because I'm not remembering the specifics, but I know she said that when women did a colon, and I think also liver cleanse, it may have just been colon cleanse, but when they did either colon cleanse or both of them, that she could get 90% of those women to get pregnant, like within a few months of having done the cleansing. And
Mm.
so you think, I think in an ideal world, I think in like the world that God created, where we're eating just whole foods and we're drinking water and, we're not in high states of stress. We have enough digestive, juices like to keep everything going and moving smoothly. And we have the enzymes in our food because our food supply hasn't been like depleted of all of the crud, right? Like in the ideal world that God originally created, we probably didn't need to cleanse. But that's not the world we live in. We live in a world of stress and of processed foods and of under drinking water and all of the things that help keep everything moving and fleshing out. So in that world, I do think for most of us, doing at least a yearly colon cleanse to kind of clear out some of the junk and get a fresh start, and then putting some of those habits, better habits into place, getting enough fiber, getting enough water, minerals, things like that, that do help things moving along, is really important.
Hmm. That's really good. Yeah. And the colon, there's these pathways of detox for us. The colon is our number one, right? Like we have the most leaving our body, or should, through our colon. So we want to make sure that that is open and flushing. We have these other detox pathways as well. Becky, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like people to think about, like, I like my clients to think about how your lower organs are going to be what? Your kidneys, right? So when your urine goes through your kidneys, like that's a cleansing organ, your liver is a cleansing organ, your colon's a cleansing organ. And so we do have all these cleansing organs. And when any of them get backed up, we start to have problems. So these, some of these are considered your detox pathways. You also have your skin is actually a cleansing organ as well. And so sweating, there's a lot of people that actually can't sweat, and that is also a huge problem. So if you're someone that can't sweat, that's really something that should be looked at as well. Because
And most people can retrain themselves to sweat. That can be done.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, and that's the other thing. All these things can be, reversed. I feel like the body is designed to get rid of these things. I mean, even really our lungs is a cleansing organ. When we're
Yeah.
breathing, it's a cleansing organ. And as women, we actually have an extra cleanser when we're having our menstrual cycle. And I think that's one thing that's like shocked people kind of over the years. They're like, oh, that's detoxing.
Mhm.
Yes, it is. And I think as difficult as, a lot of women, even when they go through something like as sad and difficult as a miscarriage when they're trying to conceive, sometimes that is a means of the body just letting go of things it doesn't need. And sometimes that's why women have several miscarriages and then begin to carry, because their bodies let go of the things that it doesn't need anymore. And so I think that's something one that's really good to think about. So we, like Andrea said, we always want to be, having those bowel movements. So important. Drinking that water helps flush out everything. Our urine carries stuff out, and like all these organs work together to be, cleaning out our body.
Mhm.
And so having all those things open is like some of the most important things. So when we are cleansing, we also have to make sure all those things are working, or else those toxins do get kind of reabsorbed in the body. And that's when people do have problems sometimes. So, we see a lot online. Parasite cleansing is a huge topic for one.
Mhm.
And it's like parasite cleansing can get kind of dangerous, especially if all those detox pathways aren't open too, because parasites are eating junk. That's what they do. And so if all these detox pathways aren't open, you can get into a lot of trouble doing a parasite cleanse too. So I think it's just really good. For me, it's a good mental picture of thinking through like, okay, this does this with like if I'm drinking enough water, I'm cleansing out. If I'm eating the right foods and enough fiber and things like that, and I'm my bowel movements, I'm cleansing out. And to make sure that your brain understands that when you're talking about cleansing or thinking about a cleanse or thinking through a cleanse.
Andrea, in Dr. Leanne's book, she talked about putting some of those cleanses for specific organs in kind of a rhythm through the year. The ones Becky was talking about, like colon, liver. Do you want to kind of walk us through that with like seasons and when would be best to maybe cleanse things?
Yeah, so I don't feel like I have it fully down, but I know she talked about in the fall being the time to cleanse the colon. Like,
Mhm.
and I would give this caveat, like if your colon needs to be cleansed, don't wait until fall.
Yeah.
Okay. Just don't wait. Like I feel like that's always the place to start because
Yeah.
if you think about a sewer system, right, the colon is the last piece of it. And so you wouldn't go and try to like clean out like the upper parts of a sewer system without like
The drain.
unclogging the
Yeah.
drain, right? First, that's you got to kind of think backwards on like when you're working, and it's why with the as Becky was saying with the parasites, if you start killing off parasites and there's die-off and everything, and all of the toxins being released from that, but it has nowhere to go, then you're going to be feeling more symptoms. You're going to feel terrible from a parasite cleanse if your colon and liver and everything isn't processing well. So you kind of do want to always start with the colon, and then I personally would go to liver next after that, but anyway, yeah, she talks about like in the perfect scenario, and she had all the words to put to it as to why, but fall, as you're like moving into winter, is kind of the time for the colon cleansing. And then, as you move through, like winter is like not supposed to be the ideal time for cleansing, but as you move into the spring, then I think you were getting into like lymph and yeah, like lungs, like clearing the lungs and things like that. But the book is fascinating, and I would highly recommend anybody who is interested in cleansing get this book. It's called Inner Transformations Using Essential Oils. It's not just about essential oils, and she gives tons of like case studies and testimonials. I mean, some of the stories in there, I remember reading it in a car ride with family. Really kind of at the beginning of our natural journey and just be like, you guys, listen to this story. Listen to this story. They were just like phenomenal. I mean, the amount this is so gross, but the amount of like fecal matter that can be in an enlarged colon if you're not going to the bathroom is like 20 or 30 pounds worth of colon. And they'll call them
Mhm.
like a super colon or something like that because it'll just expand. The colon will just keep expanding, right? And so there's all of this. You just think about like think about like a in a sewer system, right? That the pipes get like filled with like junk. We were just cleaning out our sink because it wasn't draining well. And so we're like pulling stuff out and it's like hair, right? And like makeup from washing the face and all of the junk that was just like on the sides, like across to the sides of it. And so anyway, yeah. So there is a seasonality to it, but also if you are dealing with lots of symptoms and you kind of just intuitively know that your colon needs some support, I would just do it anytime.
Yeah, I think listening to your intuition again is like
Mhm.
huge. If you really are like, I keep thinking about this, I don't know why. Like, just, yeah, don't wait. I totally agree with that.
Certainly, if you feel like bloated, like you're not, you know, your stooling isn't happening fast enough, those kinds of things, then you want to begin supporting your
Allergies.
liver.
I
Yeah,
always tell
allergies.
people if you're
I
dealing
just,
with allergies, it's a really good time to do some colon cleansing, followed by some liver cleansing, because you think about like once again, all of the toxins being released back in the body immune system responding, creating histamine responses, like you just want to get those pathways cleared.
hmm yeah. And in the fall, so as you were saying, the fall is like this time in Oriental medicine. The idea is that our body is kind of focusing its energy on the colon, which is interesting. And also the foods available to us in the fall, like winter squash and, like kind of all the harvested vegetables, pumpkin, all those vegetables that are coming in that are like bulky and have lots of great fiber and different kinds of fiber,
Mhm.
apples, all those foods work really well for scrubbing the colon. And so if, a cleanse can actually just be focusing on like maybe eating vegetables 3 times a day, not only vegetables, but like maybe with your eggs in the morning for your omelet, you add in some vegetables that are going to be some fibers to start off the day, vegetables at lunch, vegetables dinner, if you weren't doing that previously, right? So
Well, and I
focusing
think
that alone could be a cleanse if it were to help you start pooping twice a day.
I think even thinking through as we're talking about seasons, what's in season can actually really help the body cleanse. So I think people forget that, like Andre said, like back in the day, they like it probably wasn't needed, but now it's needed. And I think now we're also not eating seasonally.
Hmm.
So it is really great to kind of like pay attention to wherever you live and what seasonal food is like what food's in season and try to eat that. Like that is actually going to be really helpful with cleansing. Just like Bronwyn just said about, those foods that are more prevalent in the fall that are just gonna that can help you with your colon. Like in the spring, we've got, all these start getting these fresh fruits and fresh vegetables, and that's a really great time to eat those things during the spring. Maybe we won't eat those things during the winter. In fact, our ancestors didn't because they weren't available. And I think that is also part of the cleansing process is eating those foods as much as possible that are in season. And
Hmm.
that's so like hard for us to do now because we're like got access to everything.
Mhm.
Hmm.
But that was how
So,
God designed it too.
so practically speaking, if somebody's wanting to eat more seasonally, probably the best thing, other than growing your own food, right? Probably the best thing you could do is just go to the farmer's market because you know that if you're going to the farmer's market, you're going to be getting things that have been grown locally and seasonally. And so you know that, yeah, you're going to get that signaling, which is a whole other conversation. Like, like,
Light signaling. Yeah.
yes, yes, in the fresh food. And you're going to get more enzymes, all of the things that are going to help with
Yeah.
digestion too.
Yeah. I'm a
And to the
huge
point of
proponent
like,
of like we were created to receive all these signals, right? Like God created us that way. And so food is one of them and the seasonal eating is one of them. And it goes along with getting rid of stuff in our body we just don't need.
Mhm.
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 Yeah, and to the point of, when you feel like you need to do a colon cleanse, but it doesn't happen to be October, right? Or whatever. Like if it's June and there's a lot of peaches, you could eat a lot of peaches, and that would probably initiate a colon cleanse. Cherries for sure would. I mean, there's a lot of fruits and vegetables from spring all the way through fall, which are going to initiate that. And then in the wintertime, hopefully, we've had enough cleansing through our lighter, the months where we have more light and more fruits and veggies that our colon will be fairly clean through the winter. Um, yeah, so these changes. So let's talk a little bit beyond just our diet, like going to the farmer's market, got that going. What about what if it's like wintertime and actually there's no farmer's market? And so should I, like psyllium husk is one, preparations with like psyllium husk, diatomaceous earth, some of these other things. What are some of you guys, what are your favorites on some of those? And any tips on taking them, I guess.
Well, I'll say the only what I would consider to be colon cleanses, the only two that I have done um, would be master cleanse. Obviously, is more than a colon cleanse, but it does help to clean the colon. But
Describe for us what
there's
master cleanse is.
so the master cleanse, and I don't know, and I'd be curious to hear you guys' thoughts on it. I don't know if I'm like that huge of a proponent or I'm that excited about it anymore. I haven't done one in a very long time.
Hmm.
But master cleanse is going to be using organic lemon juice and grade B maple syrup and cayenne pepper mixed with water, and then doing a salt flush that helps flush the colon. The ideal is to do that daily. Anyway, so those are the components of the master cleanse, and it's kind of a separate type of cleanse. But the one that I have done throughout the years, and I'm totally due for another one. We're actually going to lead a community group through it in the next couple of months. Is called the Cleansing Trio.
Hmm.
And it has three products, and it has Comfort Tone, which is going to help soften the stool. It's going to have the what is it? Why am I blanking on the name?
Cascara
Casca,
Sagrada.
yeah, Cascara Sagrada in it, as well as some other things. It actually can help. It actually can work as a binding agent as well, because of some of the components in it. But so that's going to help soften the stool, and that's actually what I take with me on vacation. That's like my big, like I must take that every day that I'm on vacation. And then it has what's called ICP, And that has a scrubbing action. So if you kind of think of that being what's gonna, like, so the comfort tone is gonna help soften everything. And then the ICP is gonna go and kind of do the scrubbing action like on the walls of the colon to help bring debris and stuff off. One of the reasons that we get coated is in the standard American diet is white flour. If you mix that with water or milk or anything, it kind of creates a paste, right? And so then it's starting to coat, the internal walls of the colon. And
Isn't
so
that
this
what
is,
we used, like in elementary school, we make like the face mask. Is that like third grade? We do that?
yeah.
Like
Well, they
plaster
used
of
to,
Paris, right? Plaster of Paris is
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
flour and water.
they used to use it to hang wallpaper too. Like it is a
Yeah.
sticking agent. So anyway, so that's going to help scrub. And then you take enzymes that are helping to break food down and just to kind of help the process as well. And that's really, really helpful. I've seen that help a lot of people who are having issues and are looking for a good colon cleanse. So
Yeah, and
that would be my favorite.
that ICP powder, the scrubbing agent, it is, I believe I'm remembering, it's psyllium husk
Hmm.
and flaxseed powder, and I think it has diatomaceous earth, and it has a bunch of essential oils which are calming and soothing to the gut while it scrubs.
While it's scrubbing.
Some of those are actually also antiparasitic, like mildly antiparasitic.
Hmm.
It's not really intended to just be like a parasite cleanse, but if you're cleansing the colon, you might be doing some parasite cleansing too. So
Right.
it's working on that.
You're most likely going to be getting rid of some parasites just by doing the colon cleanse.
Yeah. The when you use a psyllium husk powder, it's kind of cool stuff because you put it in water and it goes from this dry, fine powder to then like bulking up into I don't know, it's like if you leave it long enough, it'll turn into like applesauce
Hmm.
type texture. So you try and drink it quickly, so it's just liquid, and then but you know that once it gets in there, it's gonna like firm up and then be this kind of like thick scrubber, which is pretty cool.
Which is also why it's really important when you're doing a colon cleanse to drink plenty of water. You don't,
Yes.
yeah, you don't want it to just get stuck in
Extra.
there. You want you want the
Right.
fluids to
Like, in
help.
fact, you cannot count whatever water you put your psyllium husk in. You can't count that for your water for the day
Nope.
because it's no longer water by the time it hits your stomach. I want to
Oh.
circle back a little bit on the master cleanse because I know that's been a popular cleanse, and I just want to give my perspective, and I want to hear if you guys have a perspective too. So that's the lemonade diet when you're doing the lemon juice, the cayenne pepper, the maple syrup, and water, and then the daily salt water flushing. So
Mhm.
it is really effective at just like clearing you out. And then as prescribed, you would do it for 10 days. So you're not eating any food. You're only drinking that lemonade, which is interesting because, it has maple syrup and it has B vitamins. It has some things your body can utilize as nutrients. So you tend to not be very hungry. You're empty, but you tend to not be hungry. And I've been able to, get to the 10 days, and then I've done some shorter ones. I think that only people who are actually really nutritionally repleted, really dense, like you're not in a deficit at all, would you be ready for that? And I've known people that do one of those cleanses and kind of like have some amazing results. Actually, the first time I did the master cleanse, I began to see kind of like a tape rolling backward, like some of the old injuries, like my ankle was hurting, and then this scar was, beginning to heal. Like it was almost like my body was like healing in reverse that first time I did it. And then I never saw those kinds of changes in during other times of doing that cleanse. And so I actually think that the best way to do cleansing is just pick a different cleanse each time is kind of the way to do it. Because when you do one pretty significant cleanse like that, your body is going to work through some things. And then if it cleans those, it's done. You don't need to do that. And by continuing to do the same cleanse, especially a restrictive cleanse, you could kind of
Right.
just put yourself
Yes.
into a nutritional, deficit kind of.
Well, and I think I would just add on Bronwyn because I 100% align with what you're saying in that I think especially for women and all of our hormones and especially in the age bracket of women that we are predominantly working with, um, it's just I feel like it's really important for us to fuel
Yeah.
ourselves. And so to go to a really restrictive type of thing, I don't think it's always ideal. Maybe like in your younger years
Yeah.
for men,
Maybe
perhaps.
in your younger years, but also not when you're pregnant or nursing. So,
Oh,
No,
yeah.
never.
um,
Then.
and most books on cleansing will have that caveat. I've had women come to me and say, I feel so frustrated because I'm nursing my third baby. I've been like either pregnant or nursing for like 6, 7 years. When do I get a chance to cleanse? You know? So I think, I always tell them, well, your body is actually cleansing every day. So when you eat good foods that support cleansing, like all the fruits and veggies we just mentioned, within your normal day, you're cleansing. Um, if a little bit of cleansing during nursing is not the same caution danger level as when you're pregnant. When you're pregnant, just eat all the protein and all the good foods you can eat, right, to build your baby. Um, but I think like something like the psyllium husk cleanse type of thing, it's possible to do that while nursing. You'd want to for sure have your milk supply established, so probably after your baby is 4 months old. And then you're going to watch their stool as well, because you can take something that makes you have a little bit of diarrhea and the baby gets diarrhea. I think that's fascinating because your amazing body actually doses that through your milk to your baby. So it wasn't a toxic amount, but maybe you don't want the baby having diarrhea. So you just kind of, and yourself too. So you need to roll that back and just be very, very watching. But something like psyllium husk is really just a food, flaxseed, just a food. And so moving into those real cautiously is probably okay during nursing, just to make sure you're not to really like cleanse out the colon, but just to kind of keep you supported so that you have occasionally doing it so you're making sure you're pooping often.
Yeah. I think it's also important to remember that when you're getting adequate minerals, like whether it's in with your water, with your food, salt, all the places that we get minerals are cleansing to the body. So,
Mhm.
I mean, a lot of times there's all this talk about, heavy metal toxicity, which some people, absolutely do have. But when we're getting like those healthy things in our body, like our minerals are just designed to create enzymes and in different really cleansing kind of molecules in the body. And so making sure we're just even eating a rich diet of minerals is going to also help that process too. So I think especially when you're pregnant or nursing, that's a really good thing to remember too, because
Mhm.
it's not like you have to do a cleanse. There's all these, quote unquote, like, oh, you have to cleanse and all these things. And then I found that a lot of pregnant and nursing mothers are kind of like, oh no, I can't. But at the same time, if you're eating those mineral rich foods, like that's feeding you, that's feeding your baby, you're good. Like, don't worry about
Yeah.
it until you can get to a point where you feel like you really need it, or, like,
Mhm.
or it's just your time to do it or something like that.
What do you guys think? I've heard this theory go around. Okay, I disagree with it, but I want to hear what you guys think. This theory that when you're nursing, you should try not to lose fat, like not to lose your baby weight, because your body is going to have to process the toxins in that fat, and that will expose your baby to that fat or to those toxins. Thoughts on that?
I feel like we don't give the body enough credit for its intelligence.
Yes.
Like, yes, I
Bingo.
think our environment is entirely too toxic. I do.
Yeah.
But I think we can fear monger on that though, also on too many levels.
Yeah.
But I also feel like God knew that. And I'm sure there's always been some kind of toxins in the environment. Like, I think our body's way more intelligent than we ever give it credit for.
Mm-hmm. And
So
Well,
that
and even without that, like what is the number of toxins they say they find in the umbilical cord?
true.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's an incredible,
it's a
like,
high amount. Yeah.
yeah, it's a really high amount.
Sadly.
So it's, yeah. I mean,
So
I
the
don't
baby
think we
is
I
already
don't think we should be
exposed.
doing major like restriction as a pregnant woman. Um,
No diet,
but no, like,
don't try to
Yeah.
lose weight, but I don't know.
But like when you're
I was the one that
nursing,
always lost all my weight nursing.
me too. Like I
but
feel
you
like
did or you didn't?
I did. I always lost all my weight
I
nursing.
Me
did.
too.
I feel like it was the natural diet for me. Like
Yeah.
not at the beginning, like in my first like 8 weeks of postpartum, I would usually get puffier actually.
Mm.
And and I was definitely trying to eat well to establish milk supply, but I wasn't like gorging or anything like that. I just noticed like I think the way my hormones went, I kind of got puffy. so that, by the time you're having your cute baby pictures, you don't look so cute anymore. But then, like around 6 months, my baby was really like the baby was like nursing it off of me. I'm like, my pants are dropping off, kind of thing, and
Same.
that
I
felt
remember
good. Felt so good.
I assumed that that's what happened with everybody with nursing.
Mhm. But
Clearly I
it's
was
not.
ignorant. It is not.
Mhm.
It is not. Some people hold on to the weight while they're nursing, and it's not till after they're done that they can release it. So,
Yeah. So in that sense, I think we should trust the body too. Like, still feed yourself well, right? Feed yourself, make sure you have plenty of milk for your baby, and
Mhm.
then the time will come after, then you can drop it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so um again, let's go a little bit deeper on some of the supplement type of stuff. What about like more specific liver cleansing? There are there are herbs and things like N-acetylcysteine or NAC, um, glutathione. Now, glutathione is something that our body makes naturally as our it's sometimes called the master antioxidant. There's now probably controversy about whether there's other things that are just as important. The more we know about the body, the more like we're
The more we
wowed.
don't know. The more we know, the more we don't know.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Yes,
But
no. Sometimes I also
speaking,
think we overthink things and it's way more intuitive than we give it credit for too.
yeah,
Maybe
yes,
in some ways. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so well, on the glutathione, I mean, I just saw you do in your stories this last week, Bronwyn, about coffee enemas.
Oh,
And
yes.
so that's one of the ways to up glutathione in the body is through coffee enemas. Do you want to explain a little bit? Should we take time to explain a little bit of that?
Yeah, so it's probably not a super popular hobby,
This is how you know that you're real crunchy is if you're willing to do the coffee enema. All
right?
right.
And then share it in your
Right.
stories. I mean, I
And
shared,
stare it in your story. That's a whole nother level.
right. Well, I shared boiling the pot in my story. That's all I'll share. So, a coffee enema, the idea is that coffee has, of course, it has caffeine, and then it has an acid called palmitic acid, which upgrades the speed at which the liver does its detox. So the liver does many, like a few hundred things, I think, for our body. But one of the things it does is when toxins flow, like our blood flows to the liver and it gets filtered. And then the liver takes those toxins that it pulled out of the blood and first it detoxes them. So it has like phase one, which means it makes a toxin less toxic. So it needs something like glutathione to do that. Then it builds bile, which is a sticky substance that it glues the toxin, the leftover toxin parts to. And then that bile goes from the liver to the gallbladder down into the small intestine, mixes with our food. The bile has a few other jobs too. One of the things it does is it makes our fat water soluble so we can absorb our fats. So if you don't have a good bile system going on, then you're going to have a hard time eating fatty foods, which everyone without a gallbladder knows that. At any rate, so then our bile is supposed to go on down into our colon and then out into the toilet. If we are constipated, so there is a bile recycling program that goes on as well. And so if your food moves very slowly through your small intestine and large intestine, a lot of that bile and the toxins are recycled, which is what Andrea was talking about reabsorbing. So we want to kind of we don't want it to go too fast where we have diarrhea all the time, but we want to have, a steady pace of well-formed stools that the bile is gone. And so our liver kind of initiates that process. And so the more factors we give it that help it to create its antioxidants and do phase one detox, the more all that process can happen. So coffee helps to upgrade that system. I began doing them. I didn't want to do them. Nobody wants to do a coffee enema. That doesn't sound fun. But
Some people
I
want to,
began
I think.
I began doing it about, I don't know, was it 21 years ago, 20 years ago, when I had been diagnosed with mercury toxicity. So I was doing chelation therapy. And fortunately, my integrative doctor said, we really are going to put you on a lot of detox supports because as we chelate these things out, we want to make sure it gets all the way out of your body. And so once every 2 weeks, I would do a coffee enema. Um, I actually do have a handout, Becky. We can just attach that to the show notes as far as like a instructions on this. But I want to say this: coffee, an enema of any kind, water or coffee, you're putting that into your colon. And so you have the potential to leach minerals from your body because of that.
Mhm.
And so that doctor taught me to put a whole food, like a mineral salt, into my coffee, which I have just not seen many people talk about putting salt into your
They
water.
don't.
If you're doing a water enema. Like a water enema would be just called a cleansing enema. And then the coffee enema is specific to help the liver. So a lot of people think that an enema is to help evacuate the bowel, which that's what they do at the hospital if you're needing it. But um, no, this coffee enema is really for the sake of the liver. But you don't want to do it again unless your bowel is already moving well enough that it's, being emptied multiple times a day. And then you'd be ready to kind of upgrade the liver. There's a nerve pathway that goes between the colon directly to the liver, so that, and it's like on your right side, so that when your coffee makes it across the transverse part of your liver, then those acids will be absorbed directly to the liver. Sorry, the coffee makes it across the colon, absorbed directly to the liver. The liver begins to upgrade, and oftentimes you'll actually feel this constriction of your gallbladder, like squeezing and squirting out. Sometimes you can hear it. You can hear the squeezing out of the bile. And so you get this physical cleanse of the bile moving onward. You also get that chemical cleanse where the liver is doing its upgraded mechanisms for phase 1 detox. So yeah, I'll put these in. I have this in the instructions, but I never do them after 3 p.m. because there's so much caffeine. I don't want to stay awake. But from whatever it is, 1 p.m. or 2 p.m., whatever, through the rest of the day, I am so productive because I have so much energy when my liver gets going and moving things through. And I don't know, it feels
So we've
great.
all three of us have done coffee enemas, and we were just having this conversation earlier this week that like I always do them at night. Like I have never done one any other time,
But
and
you
I am
weren't using
so
our brand of
relaxed.
coffee. You weren't using our brand of coffee.
This is
Yeah.
true. Maybe it'll be different.
You might
So
want
Yeah,
I
to
was
try it with
just
the like coffee enema coffee and see how you
I
feel.
know I've been doing it wrong all these
cold roast.
years. I've just been doing like a mold-free organic medium roast. So maybe that's the difference. Maybe it's going to be like because there is more caffeine in it,
There's a lot more
right?
caffeine in it, so that maybe that actually is the
That
difference.
maybe is why. Okay.
Mhm.
I think we've
Yeah.
solved all the world's problems right
I
here.
think also this is just kind of like a little side note, but like that whole, squeezing of the gallbladder thing you were talking about,
Mhm.
that also happens more easily when we're in this like parasympathetic state.
True.
So I
Mhm.
want everybody also to realize that our stress state, like our fight or flight, keeps us from like all that too. So it keep
Fully
like if
detoxing.
you're in chronic fight or flight, it's going to totally keep you from being able to detox. So I also think it's really important when people are thinking about doing any kind of cleanse to know that if you're in a stressful time in your life, it is not a good time.
Yeah,
Um,
don't cleanse.
and that's why I think that's why sometimes, like, even though vacation, for example, is not stressful, traveling can be, being in a different place can be. And so sometimes maybe you're not having bowel movements because your body's out of the ordinary. So, like, just I'd like people just to remember that, like, your body is also designed to cleanse itself when you're in your parasympathetic, which
Mhm.
so that's your rest and relaxation state. That's your rest and digest state.
Digest.
Yes. And so like it's like a lot of times I just remember I was going to this one chiropractor and he would spend all this time with me, and chiropractic can really like calm down your nervous system a lot of times. And he'd always be like I could start hearing my stomach when I would be on his table, like when he'd be adjusting me, and he'd be like, "Yep, we got all the right." It's like everything starts working. And so sometimes, like if you're calm and those things are happening, you're starting to flow more. Whether it's your lymphatics, whether it's your gallbladder, whether it's your liver, like all these things. So being in that nervous system state where it's calmer is also like really important to the process.
So literally like taking a drop of lavender in your hands and smelling it, that could start the whole thing.
That
Like,
also, yes.
oh, Andrea's gonna do it right now.
I don't have any lavender, but I was like, I've got some Believe oil sitting right there.
Oh, that's a good one too. I like all the tree oils. The tree oils do it for me too.
Mhm.
And even like Digize, it's a blend of some of those oils that are in ICP, the ginger and the fennel and the peppermint and the patchouli. And putting a drop under my tongue will oftentimes get my digestion like syncing better.
Mm-hmm.
You guys use Digize? I mean, I think
Yeah,
I
or even
forget
in
about it a
even
lot.
in the belly button around, like even just around topically.
Yeah, like because I think sometimes we make some of these things too complicated too. Like there's just some really simple things we can do during the day that can kind of get us in more of a calmer state that will move you closer to your health goals or to your, to whatever goals you have as far as like putting your body in a better place.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. I think sometimes one thing that's helpful is just to say, like, what do I have at hand, right?
Mhm.
Like, and actually, all of us have ground outside. I was going to say sunshine. I live in the Pacific Northwest. I don't always have sunshine, but some of the things it's like, what do I have at hand? I can go step on the earth, but you might have a bottle of lavender. You can start stacking some of these things.
Mhm.
What do I have in my pantry that is, going to help with this? Get some more water in me, and
Mhm.
then breathe. Right? We all have.
Breathe, calm. Yeah, calm yourself with a drop of lavender. Like those literally can help start your cleansing process. And
Mhm.
I forget, like these ladies know that I can totally be I can make things so complicated. Like I can make things hard. And to me, I just have to keep going back to like, okay, I can do this. Maybe I can't do a full cleanse right now, but I can calm my body with some lavender. I
Mhm.
can take a minute to go out and walk on the ground. I can go take a walk in the sunshine for 10 minutes.
And
Mhm.
sometimes it's literally just stopping for 30 seconds to do some breathing and think about like what do you need in this moment?
Mhm.
Because we are living such busy, stressed out lives that we don't often just stop to be quiet
Yeah, or hey, like
and to
we
hear
talked about
ourselves.
last time, put your phone down and stop reading what the news says.
Which is stressing you out.
Were we talking about the phone and coffee enemas? Or did I read that in the coffee enema group that
We
I'm
did
in?
talk about the phone in the last episode where
No,
I
no,
don't
no, no,
know.
no. Like, did the three of us have a conversation about coffee enemas and the phone?
No,
Okay, so it had to have been in the group. I couldn't believe like people were agreeing that holding the phone in their hands while they were doing a coffee enema, um, what were they saying about it? Like it was somehow negatively impacting
that
the
Oh,
sounds
coffee
negatively
enema.
impacting because your body is like stressed and
Right? Like the
like
EMFs and everything, just having that like
oh,
in your, like it was negative. Yeah, I'm gonna have to find that. I'm gonna share it with you guys.
okay, that's a whole nother conversation. But
Yeah.
like thinking about, yeah, the EMFs even interacting with your own energetic field is gonna
Yes.
jack you up too.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
I
that's for
often
another podcast
That's
episode,
for
maybe.
later.
I often have my phone there because I want to time my coffee enema. Um, Evidently, if you do 12 minutes, that your body has absorbed all the palmitic acid it's going to absorb. And
Oh,
so
really?
if you made it to 12 minutes, then you don't need to go any further. Or if you feel or hear that gallbladder squirting, then you're probably done as well. So sometimes that happens early and I'm like, I'm done. Then you go to the toilet and you release.
Oh,
But
interesting.
yeah, so I usually have my phone, but I don't have it touching me because yeah, the closer to your body it is, the more disruptive it is to your own field and not peaceful. So
Because I
um,
even found like from having an R ring for a long time, which is, it's going to be less EMFs than your phone. And the R rings, you can turn off the EMFs. I could tell that was disrupting me.
Mm.
mm,
And I've always been so curious about like people wearing the R ring at night while sleeping. I'm like, but you're exposing yourself. Like, isn't it gonna disrupt sleep? And it's trying to like track like how good your sleep is.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, definitely less EMF, but I would still think it would be an issue with
It,
sleep.
it does. I think people don't realize because a lot of doctors think it's goofy, but when you talk about, you can find lots of science still on the energetic field of the body. There's lots of it, whether whether Western medical science wants to acknowledge it or not. There's lots of scientific evidence, and putting something also with an energetic interaction with your body is going to interact with it. So
Yeah.
mhm.
Just good to
Incoherent
think those
frequencies.
things, like putting your phone in your bra. Don't do that. Like stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Or your
I
pocket.
still, I still am trying to get into the habit of just turning my off at night. I I don't know why it's been such a hard habit to adopt, but I know it would be a good, I know it'd be a good one.
Yeah, we had a timer that our Wi-Fi was plugged into, so that it was like a 12-hour timer would go off.
Really?
And like, you know how like things shift in your home, computers move and like stuff shifted, and then that's not our system currently. I need to go find that and like reinstate that
Also,
because
we have wired our house in our new home. We have wired it to be able to be hardwired into our computers. Why haven't I gotten the like what is it, the sick cat sick whatever the lines are for that? Um,
yeah.
so simple. All right, we're gonna have to have these conversations on another podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, for
Great
sure.
to
In
chat
the
with you
room
guys
now.
today. And thank you all for being with us on our episode here talking about cleansing. Bye. Have a good day.